Welcome to another episode of Corporate CPR, where we breathe life back into your organization, projects, and processes, giving you insights to recovery and avoiding corporate mortality events. Today, we'll be talking about overcoming challenges as a woman in a male-dominated industry. And joining us to discuss this is Sara Allwood. Sara, welcome.
Hi.
You want to share a little bit about your background, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, I mean, I'm English, so we like to talk, so you have to stop me. So I've spent around 20 years in the fashion industry. Loved fast fashion, moving in the past 6 years into sustainability, working for luxury and the high street, managing and being a director of very large teams, whether it's been within retail or for smaller businesses. I've been helping a lot of startups as well, which has been enlightening. But essentially, I am a mum of an awesome 5.5-year-old. I'm an older mum. Started later, had my career, and then decided, I was missing definitely that aspect in my life. It's the best job in the world. I am currently a single mum as well, but happy with it. But that also comes with its challenges, particular being a female director also. So we can talk a bit more about that. But I'm currently living in Holland by the sea, so plenty of beautiful fresh air for me and my son. And just adopted a Great Dane puppy for my sheer madness. Another challenge. I like to go at it all in one go, but we've got a mini horse running around.
Yeah, those are big ones for sure. We got a Dalmatian about a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, and then it was like, this dog looks like a horse, and that's not anywhere near as big as a Great Dane. So
every morning I wake up, I'm like, what the hell's happened?
It's awesome. So one of the things, with there's obviously a lot of talk about women in the workplace, women's equality, gender equality, et cetera. But one of the things that I find really important is that, while these movements are going on, and hopefully we have a change or improvement, however that improvement plays out in our workforce, there's a lot of things that women need to do for themselves and just take it on themselves and feel empowered to take their careers in their hand and overcome adversity. So I'd like to talk a little bit about, though, what some of those challenges you've seen. What kind of stories do you have where you've really had to overcome some challenging situations as a woman in a workplace?
Yeah, I mean, I always think we have to fight a little harder and shout a little louder. So we're naturally more emotional creatures. I'm definitely emotional. I'm creative and emotional. So a lot of men are like, but I like to think I've got a certain intellect as well. I think what I've learned, and I tell my son as well, because I'm also trying to mold him into being very much in touch with his feelings and be emotional as a human being and as a male when he grows up. I think that's really important. And to express how he feels as well, because I do still feel on the challenge side, being a female in the workplace, if you express your feelings, a lot of the men in the industry will say, oh, you're being too emotional, love, which drives me insane. And I'm like, no, I'm not being emotional. I'm being me. I think as women, we have to remain strong, have a goal in mind. I mean, I always kept working on a 5-year plan for myself, what I wanted that to be shaped like, and pretty much stuck to it from my career, like starting in the factory floor through to, right, in the next 2 years, I'm going to make sure I have this certain amount of salary with this status in the company, because I wanted to work my way up. I wanted to, be at the top. I also wanted to. I like people, not all people, but most people. But I like to mentor a lot of people as well. So that I pride myself on having amazing teams. And so I used to, when I was younger, have a lot of bosses where they weren't very, they had no empathy for the employees. And I thought, I don't ever want to be that sort of boss. So that kind of drove me to, that whole management direction, so that I could create awesome teams that drove a business forward, and not necessarily led by fear, but led by passion and openness and thriving together. Because I always say to my team, I'm only as good as my team. It's not about me as a singular person. I do think that we still struggle. I still struggle in certain environments where, and women are guilty of this too. I don't want to just say, oh, it's only men and sound like a real self-righteous feminist, but it's men do tend to do things more on their own, whereas I think women tend to be more inclusive. Certainly in my line of work, I see a lot more women taking, other women into the fold, and other the male people that we have here. I still think that we I always thought we were a lot further than we are. I like to think we're a lot further, but there's certain situations that happen within your working career that you kind of think, oh my gosh, this is really like, feels like we're going backwards. There's still a lot of stigma attached to women being emotional, and you've either got to be a right bitch, excuse my French, to be perceived by the other males in the industry as, oh yeah, she knows what she's doing, she's got it all together, which I find absurd. I mean, I really don't manage in that way or run the business in that way at all. Like I say, I'm more inclusive. And I think that has been more of a struggle to come from that angle than adopting maybe the same dominant, stance as the men do in the industry.
You kind of touched on a couple of things there. So, one of the things you mentioned is talking about, I like to use, I guess, female character, maybe feminine characteristics and male characteristics, because while you're describing things, I'm actually, it sounds like very much the opposite of you. I am very much more like, I guess, a male in the sense that I have to think about being empathetic, right? Like, I'm just like, do your job. Like, oh my goodness, you're here to do work. Like, but then I've learned over time, like, if you want people to do their job, it helps if you have empathy, right? So those are things that I've been learning and growing. And so one of the things that I think gets challenging in this conversation is, at least like when I attend women events and things like that, is we have a tendency to group all women to be like, as in we're all, a certain way. And I just kind of wonder if there's some men that have more feministic characteristics, if they have some of the same challenges.
That's interesting. I mean, obviously, I work with a lot of, oh gosh, I never know what's politically correct anymore. I was going to say gay people. I love them. And I work, being in the fashion industry. And I much prefer working for and with those, not with them, because they have female traits. They can have, I mean, I've worked for some divas, but they resonate, you form a kinship because you have the sort of the same traits. I definitely tend to gravitate towards those people. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? Those people. But working in some of the fashion businesses I've worked in, I've come across extreme alpha males, that's where I personally find my challenge, because I'm not alpha in any way. I take the, I can stand up. I've learned to, stand my ground and know this is what I believe in. And, if you can convince me otherwise, then fair play. But this is why I think we should be doing it. I
Right.
feel that as a woman in the industry, I've had to back my credibility up a lot more than maybe some alpha males in the industry. So I come more prepared, I would say, than others to a board meeting. I
Mhm.
have so much more figures and charts and things like that, pretty pictures, because I do feel that I have to justify what I'm saying, or my point of view, more than particular alpha males.
Mm.
And that's where, when I said before, I do sometimes feel that, we go backwards slightly, because we're like, okay, we have to come more, we're challenged more. But I do see it. It's just unfortunate still.
Mm.
But you have to have that preparation, I feel.
You mentioned that you had I think you said maybe you said 5-year plan, but you said you have a development plan, and I really like that, because it's taking it back into your own hands. Like, if we just say the environment's the environment, yes, let's try to improve the environment, but what can I do? Well, one of those things is the development plan, and I'm sure maybe that's where you learn to, I'm going to be more prepared, I'm going to come with this, et cetera. So can you talk a little bit about like what your development plan is like, and your journey, in using one?
Yeah, so I love, for a creative person, I'm actually quite structured. So I'm a bit geeky in that respect. But yeah, some people do it through vision boards. So they
Mm.
have which I love a vision board, but mine was always more written. So I was very much about, writing down, bullet pointing. This is what the 5-year plan was. This is what my next year looks like. What am I going to do to get to that? What are going to be my challenges? Even yeah, everyone likes to plan everything out, and it doesn't always work. I'm an older mum. I didn't plan it to be, take so long to get my son. But even that, you meticulously work at things and give it your all, because personally, and that's probably part of my personal development, I live with no regrets, and I like to
Mhm.
look back and say, do you know what? I gave that a really good try. I did the best I can, and now I move on. And I
Mhm.
think that's important, not to, you know, you can look back at your plan and go, I got that wrong, because I've got things wrong in my career. I've made poor judgments. I can say that maybe 3 times. I've thought, I'll employ this person because they've really impressed me, and I've been completely wrong, and things like that. And I tend to really trust my judgment quite well, but I get it wrong. And I still look back. I still have a 5-year plan that's very different to what I'm doing now, because COVID, parenting, health issues, whatever it is, you have to flex with your plan. But I think if you have a goal, whether it's like, to be the next female president of the United States, whatever it is, you should. That's the drive you need. Something needs to drive you, whether it's your children, your career, whatever it is.
Mm.
You want to save the planet. You've got to have drive.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something. So I am a firm believer, and I've had this argument with people that we should all have a plan, some sort of plan. It doesn't have to be a detailed plan,
Yeah.
but understand what, when we look back, what are those things that we hope to have achieved, so that we don't have regrets, like you said, and then it's okay if the plan changes. Like,
Yeah.
it does change, right? Because we change, we mature, we experience new things, whatever, and that can change the plan. And I think that's fine. But I find that I can't imagine going through life without any sort of direction, and then getting to the end, and what do you feel then? I mean,
Yeah,
so I really agree that, some sort of vision for your future.
yeah, exactly. Even if it's just a vision board. One of my friends
Mm.
just does vision boards, and she's got where she wants to holiday next year,
Hmm.
if she wants to take on another animal, just simple things like that. But she has a goal, and then she can say, oh yeah, I did make it to Miami, I remember that. And
Yeah.
she knows why she got there. She's stopped smoking so she can save for that trip, and just little things like that. It doesn't have to be big plans like you said.
Yeah. Well, and it's just, it's about, I guess, not letting life just happen to you, right? It's actually taking some control over your life by providing some direction to it.
Yeah, and I think as women, we do that anyway, but
Mm.
some of us need to put it on paper, or make it a bit more concrete for sure.
Yeah. And so, let's talk about, I mean, in your career then, what have been a few key things that have really helped you advance and get to where you want to, be?
I think it stems really, like my mum always said, you can do anything you want. You can be anything you want, do anything you want. So I always say you're a product of your upbringing anyway.
Mm.
And I instill that in my son, when school starts talking about what do you want to be when you grow up. And I said, you could be anything you want, because I have signs all over my house saying dream big, and things like that. And I always say to my team, let's go big or go home. Let's just do it. And I do take a lot of risks. Because I just think, why not? And
Mhm.
that's unnerving to some people. Like if we were talking about colors, I'm extremely yellow, and the blue people would be like, "Oh no, my God, we're not going to take so many risks," and things like that. But you know, um, I moved around quite a bit as a child. I got to experience through my career traveling the world for the fashion industry, and it really opens your mind to all possibilities. So I think that definitely helped me. I also went through a period where I was constantly trying to prove people wrong. Like teachers at school would say, "Well, you're not going to really," because the creatives of my generation, everyone wanted, or the teachers certainly at my schools wanted you to do languages and things like that. So the creatives or the artists were very much like. Wow, you're not going to really earn that much money, but you can do something you like. But it was always a little bit, dubbed down, where I think there's more opportunities for Gen Z now. But it was always trying to prove people wrong. I was like, no, I am going to do that. No, you can't tell me I can't do that. I'm going to prove you wrong. And if you're right, then I'll go, do you know what? Okay. But it was always that trying to prove people wrong, I think. And I'm still doing it, you know. COVID has also taught us to look at, health and well-being more, what's important in your life and stuff like that. So, and I moved towards sustainability because of health issue I had, and like you say, you have a plan and it changes due to circumstances, but um, I just find everything can be exciting. It depends how you make it. I'm a great believer in, I believe in fate. Things happen for a reason, but you're given a choice of which path you want to go on.
Yeah, definitely. So how have you, one of the things we talk about in corporate world a lot is having a sponsor, and that's like somebody who's advocating for you and kind of being your champion. A little different than a mentor who's teaching you the way. But did you have a sponsor or more than one sponsor as you move through your career, and what was that experience like?
I wouldn't say I had a sponsor, but when I kind of felt that I was flourishing, was in a couple of places where I had, and they were actually male bosses, I have to say. But there were two parts in my career early on, and then, maybe 9 years ago, I was working for a company, and my boss had an utmost respect for me and what I was doing and trusted. And I work well under those conditions. If somebody trusts me and you have a good, working relationship, I will do 150%, put 150% in. And these two bosses that I had, one boss I didn't stay long with, because I was on my plan of every 2 years I'm going to change up my job to get experience in all areas of my industry, because that's how I graduated in knitwear and fashion and marketing as well, but I wanted to experience other areas of fashion. I think, when you do a university course, it's that, but I wanted to do that, and I could only do that by taking on different jobs every couple of years, which gave me a lot of experience. And in the early side, one of my bosses said, you'll be all right, you will, because it's a leaving party. He said, you'll be all right because you're very adaptable. And I think that really helped me, because I can adapt to each situation, or I like to think I can. Things have been challenging. And then about 9 years ago, I had a boss that was very inspirational, because he allowed me the growth I needed. And that just took everything to a different level. And I felt that I matured a lot as well. I gained a lot of leadership skills with training. So I would say those probably are the two key people that I remember. And maybe it's less sponsorship and more mentoring, but yeah.
When you mentioned, so you talked about having a 5-year plan, you talked about approaching your career with intention. So you tried a bunch of different aspects of, the industry, so that you could have a holistic thing. And then you talked about having training and things like that. What other things have helped you grow in your career? Do you sign up for the challenging assignments? Like, what are those things that have really helped you advance then, that you kind of initiated?
I always say yes to everything, which sometimes goes against me, but things would land on my table that perhaps other people wouldn't that want to do. But I always saw, a bigger goal with those challenges. So whether it was, running a different department in some other place in the world, with no electricity, if it was that, or being on part of a sustainable journey for a company as well, right at the beginning, and getting funding and things like that. And also I did a lot of, or I do a lot of seminars and talking to people, doing a lot of trade events and things like that, to help people as well, which is a big part, I mentioned at the start, of who I am and what I enjoy doing and sharing my experiences. And I forgot what the question was.
Things to help you grow in your career. What kind of intentional things beyond the things that you had mentioned already helped you grow in your career?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of things. As becoming a manager, the training that I mentioned before, and also just never giving up. Just never giving up, just very simply like that. You have really, I'm still having bad days in the industry I work in, but I'm here for a reason. So
yeah, and so you said never giving up. Then that led me to think about another question. Then is what would you say are some of, like, maybe the top 3 or whatever comes to mind, characteristics that you would recommend a woman develop or maybe they already inherently have it, but either way, that really help drive success.
Yeah, particularly within my line of work and the teams that I've had under me. Yeah, empathy, I put at the top, listen, and yeah, remember to have fun as well, because there's a lot of people at my level as well, we forget to have fun. And in the workplace, I think you can bring a certain spirit even if you're working in a bank. It's the little things you do.
Have you ever had experiences where you felt like you were being blocked, like from where you were trying to get to, and then maybe how did you manage that?
Yeah, that's been a huge challenge of being a female director, that you do have this feeling of block, or not feeling, you do get blocked, certainly when you're trying to get your point of view across. And that's where I go back to preparation, because I'm always on the, okay, I need to go into this and really get my point across. I need to be clear. So sometimes I'm not very clear. I like to waffle on and go off on a tangent. So I know, as the only female director in my current line of work, I have to be clear to the male directors, because I will lose them otherwise. And, sometimes I stand up and I get my point across. I always recommend this as well, that you're not always sitting down, because it can give you that lift of empowerment as well. So I always say to my team, if you've got something that you really want to get heard without raising your voice, stand up. And, people take more notice as well, I have to say. So I'm a big advocate of body language and things like that. But it's not easy. But remember, your point is as valid as theirs, because otherwise, why would you be in that position of authority? That's what you have to keep remembering. But it's a daily struggle. It really is.
Have you had to, I guess, you talked about how important your upbringing is, and I think part of that, maybe why I don't always necessarily relate, is because of my upbringing. I'm like, well, of course I'm as good as everybody else. Like, I don't have that, like sometimes that imposter syndrome, or whatever people want to call it, right? Like I'm like, I'm here because I deserve it. And I think that had a lot to do with how, my parents treated me and approached me. But that said, what are some things, I guess, that you've had to unlearn? Because we always have to,
Yeah.
regardless of the topic, have to unlearn things that have really helped you, and like you said, it may still be a daily struggle, but you still, you intentionally approach things with a different mindset than maybe you did when you started your career. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I'm very extrovert. And one thing I've had to learn is not to always gravitate towards other extroverts, because we all like, oh my God, hi, yeah, and we're all in a group. And to learn that the quiet ones are not always the ones that you think, oh, they won't be able to do the job quick enough or anything like that, because, I'm doing this. And so I gravitate towards people of, the same sort of
Demeanor.
energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think, oh, well, they're going to do that the same as I would. Not to forget about the introverts, because actually I have learned that they are phenomenal at getting things done. They're the most structured, and that's what you need. You don't always need 10 of me. So I've had to definitely learn that respect. And there was another one that I wanted to say, and I can't remember now. Typical. It's that time of day. My brain's mush. Sorry.
Well, and it's that creative free spirit. You just follow your thoughts where they go.
Yeah, that's my excuse. Nothing to do with my age.
So how do you, I guess, then, now that you're in a leadership position, help the people who, the other women in your organization overcome some of their challenges?
I think it's just being incredibly supportive. But I mean, I have a lot of, my room turns into a therapist room on a daily basis. But I think that's how I get the best out of my guys, when they can come in and vent. And I have equally the guys coming in, I have to say, as well as the women. I think at this level that I'm at, people just want to be listened to. People want their voices heard. They don't want to shout or, complain on a daily basis. But, we work in a very hectic environment where it's very fast paced, and one thing we're doing one project, the next we're doing the others. And, we have a high peak all the time. And it's making sure your team are on the same journey, and if a couple are not, then bringing them on that journey with you and taking care of each other. And yeah, they call me Mama Sara here, but yeah, it's just, I do believe in that whole nurturing side as well, to make them feel empowered and to share my challenges. I maybe am too open sometimes. I've heard other male colleagues tell me I am, but it's working for me. I have a fiercely loyal team who are phenomenal individuals. So I'm very
It's
proud.
fantastic.
I'm proud of the teams I've had in the past as well.
No, that's great. And yeah, I mean, I think, I would like to think is that we're starting to realize that it's not a one size fits all as a leader. There's lots of different ways to be a good leader. And sometimes it depends on the industry you're in or the team you have or the role. But, sometimes you need people who are more, bring everybody along and collaborative. And then there's sometimes environments where you need somebody who's more, maybe a little more directive, but you still need to get, hear the voices of your team. But yeah, there's not a one size fits all for leadership.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very serious question. How much is the fashion industry like Devil Wears Prada?
Darling, I am the devil.
No, you're too empathetic to be her.
I loved her, but oh my God, yeah, it is very still like that. There's always one person that is very much like that. But it makes it interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So I think sometimes one of the messages in today's environment that or the movements I've seen is trying to emasculate men in this balancing with women. And I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think there's, that as humans, we're all flawed and we all have to work to improve ourselves and be, collaborative and bring people in and create a team environment. But that we don't have to do that in the sake of becoming something we're not. No. And so I preface that with saying, what are some things that you would hope, qualities that men would learn, or focus on that you might advise, through your career? Like, what are some of the great characteristics that you've seen or maybe that you haven't, I guess, seen that you would hope to?
What I would hope to see more of, I'll start there, is the guys listening a bit more, and I'm not saying all men. Obviously, I've shared 2 male bosses who were phenomenal, but that I have a lot of male colleagues I've worked with who are extremely collaborative, and others that aren't, and they are not in active listening mode. And I see that a lot. I mean, it's the same in a marriage, etc. as well. Men don't know how to, or find it difficult to go into active listening mode, particularly when women are talking. So I would say, that's definitely still a challenge. And I was interviewed by Authority magazine on the same sort of topic recently, and I said that still it's this whole, I suppose it harks back to the gender equality thing, that if there is a woman in the room in a board meeting, we will get asked to organize the party or make a cup of tea. We're still getting asked that. And I just it's also the way you've been brought up as well, or it's just naturally, I'm not in a blaming mood, but it's just be, a bit more respectful to, I think we're all equal, and it's not, that sort of women make the cup of tea or organise parties. Although we're very good at organising parties, and I'm always organising the Christmas party. So I don't say I don't like it, but maybe one of the guys would like to do it now and again.
Right. Reframing it. Who would like to do this rather than just, assuming that one person doesn't or another person does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said before, a great quality that's in men that I've worked with is the trust, aspect as well, and allowing you to grow. I think that's a really key point.
No, that's fantastic. Well, Sara, it's been great to have you. I like to ask, what are your top 3 takeaways, whether it's something that you've said already or something we haven't gotten to talk about, but what are like the top 3 things that you think people should focus on in order to, elevate women in the workplace?
Oh my gosh, that's really tough, isn't it? What should people? Yeah. There should be an equal balance. I don't want to go on about salaries because that's a different topic, but it's still very relevant. Just listen, and the respect for me is like, because it doesn't take a lot to respect individuals, whether they're male or female, but in organizations or very corporate organizations, it's key that still remains one of the core values that a company has.
Yeah. Well, Sara, how can people get in touch with you or learn more about what you do?
Yep. So I'm on LinkedIn. I think you're going to share my LinkedIn profile, and anyone can always message me. And I'm always posting what I'm doing. See all my passions on sustainability, all my interviews and things like that. So that's probably the best place.
Oh, sounds great. Well, thanks so much for being a guest today, Sara.
Thank you. I loved it. Thank you so much.
And to our audience, until next time, keep your corporations healthy.